and it can be done up in a lot of different ways. It's got a little magnet on it too, so that the magnet keeps the brim up if you want it up. So there's a lot of cool things, and that's kind of a cheap, relatively cheap way to start yourself off in the right direction to stay warm. This guy here, this Gorilla Balaclava, is probably the ultimate one for. You'll see this up on Mount Everest when you guys are cruising up Mount Everest. But the whole face can remove, and it's also a big old hood, and you can get a helmet over that too if you needed to. You guys probably won't need any helmets on your Klondike here. But the head's the biggest area. The feet and the hands are your second biggest thing to think about. Now, a mitt is always going to be a more efficient insulator than a glove, but with a mitt, you end up losing dexterity. So if you have to do anything, you know, pull something, pick your nose. Pick your nose would be hard with a glove also. But anything, a mitt is going to be more efficient, but a glove is going to allow you to hold on to stuff. So if you've got a pair of ski gloves for going up and playing in the snow or whatever, that's probably fine. This mitt happens to have a removable fleece liner on the inside, which actually has a hands-free option here where you can get in there, and if you're lighting your stove or doing whatever, you can go through that. And then it's got a Gore-Tex outer piece. So there's ways to go all out. This is probably the least practical but most efficient glove I've got. And then we have other standard gloves that are going to do a great job. I'm not sure if I brought in a few others. Fleece gloves are fine too. This has also got that same wind stopper behind it. But hands are important, and then feet are important. I mean, think in terms of our body is kind of programmed to try to divert the warmth to where it needs to be when you're not warm enough. So that's why you get frostbite on your toes and your feet and your nose and your ears. Your body knows that while you might look funny without all those things, you're going to stay alive. So your body starts to basically stop sending as much heated blood to those areas. So your core usually stays fairly warm until you're not fairly warm. But your feet and your hands and your nose, your head, and all that other stuff don't have the blood vessels going through them in quantities to keep everything warm. So you got to watch that. Let's see. And then the biggest thing I would say, well, here's back to socks. Socks just really, and I heard a lot of really good stuff. Cotton, boy, I would go out of your way to not bring cotton, because once again, cotton, when it gets wet, it stays wet. If you've ever taken a pair of jeans out of the washing machine and just tried to hang them dry, even during summer, it could probably take days to dry up, and certainly in your environment, they're not going to dry the entire weekend. And you can have this wet, partially frozen retainer of ice right up against your body. So really, watch cotton socks for sure. Wool is the way to go. If you want to use liner socks, and some people still use liner socks, the whole purpose behind a liner sock is to wick the moisture away from your foot and get it into your outer sock. I still wouldn't want to use a liner sock and a cotton sock. So cotton socks are a no-no. They really are. And find some sort of synthetic. If it's an acrylic sock, like a men's dress sock, usually doesn't have cotton in it, and the acrylic is basically a synthetic fiber, so it's not going to absorb moisture. So the challenge will be that most of the men's dress socks are really, really thin, so you might have to wear like 9 layers of men's dress socks or whatever to build up enough bulk. But that's actually a more efficient way to go than to have one big thick cotton sock. It's not going to be doing the trick. This is actually alpaca too, which is it's not even a cousin of the merino, but it's another fiber. You're going to start hearing or seeing a lot of alpaca info, because a lot of the companies that I just met with last week are all doing alpaca stuff now. Alpaca is like merino, but it's a hollow fiber. It's a naturally hollow fiber. It's hypoallergenic. You guys are not of age where it's that important, but as you get a little older, it's very important. The technical fibers that don't retain odor are really good. So merino, alpaca doesn't retain odor. Synthetics tend to have the ability to hold odor pretty efficiently, and as you get to be older, and people don't want to be anywhere near you, and you can't understand why when you're on these trips, it's because your synthetic stuff is retaining odor. So that's kind of once again a high class problem to have. Yeah, boys don't care. It's probably you guys will actually want to try to develop the highest stink level to. Stuff in the ski area, they have synthetic base layer. In my end of the world, we have merino, which is nice to have layers on, and you can come up and feel the merino. Merino feels like cotton. In fact, I've got 2 layers of merino on right now. But it's, those things are gonna wick the moisture away very well. One other thing that I'm going to touch on are shoes, but I'm also going to quickly touch on snowshoes. Shoes, the best thing you probably can wear for your purpose would be like a hiking boot, if you can, and if it's a waterproof hiking boot. Now this is a waterproof hiking boot, not that you need to go out and invest in a waterproof hiking boot, but just make sure that it's not one of the ones that'll work great during the summer, being super breathable and nylon and you know, lets all the moisture work its way away from your foot, which is a good thing. It also is going to let all the moisture come in. Most of the sprays that you would use, there are sprays that will work on boots that you can, you know, waterproof them. If they're a leather boot, there's things like Snow Seal and whatnot that'll do a good job. If you have Gore-Tex, you don't want to snow seal them. We sell a product by a company called Revivex that actually works with the companies initially putting on the factory coating, and then you can reapply the factory coating. On nylon also, and I heard that the nylon spray thing, there is a better spray out there that Revivex makes that actually puts the DWR back onto the nylon. And some, like windbreakers, won't even have DWR on them, but all high-tech things will have DWR on it to start with. And if you've ever had like a high-end Gore-Tex jacket and you wonder why 2 years later it doesn't work anymore, it has nothing to do with the Gore-Tex, it's the DWR is not shedding the water anymore. So your material is holding water, and while the Gore-Tex membrane is still breathing, it's not breathing as well because it's got that layer, that thin layer of water that's now trapped on the outside of the material. And the Revivex stuff, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can actually wash it in, which sounds counterintuitive, but it actually works the best because it gets into every nook and cranny. Or they have a spray that you saturate, but all of their tricks is you take this stuff right from the washer or right from where you sprayed it and throw it in the dryer for an hour. And you got to dry it in. And when you dry it in, it actually sets it in much better than if you spray it on. So that's the best way to go. And you can take a lot of things and reproof them. I don't think I have it anymore because we can barely ever sell it. But one of the companies, Nick Wax, makes something called Cotton Proof, which is for proofing, waterproofing cotton. So if you have to go with jeans, I would invest in some Cotton Proof. You're not going to find it at my store, but maybe you can find it somewhere else. And then you can actually make your jeans waterproof for a brief period of time. That'll eventually wear off. But anyways, hiking boot would probably be the best choice because not only would you be able to use it on this trip, but you'd be able to use it during the summer. And then an insulated boot would also be a good choice. And an insulated boot would allow you to to stand around and still stay warm. I like this guy here. It's made by Solomon in that it's actually made on a hiking chassis. A lot of things like Sorels, which are great for being insulated, aren't really made on a hiking chassis. They're kind of made on a bucket chassis or something, where as long as you're standing there, you're fine. But if you're trying to actually walk 2 or 3 miles in something that's not designed to custom fit your foot, make sure you bring moleskin and bring a bunch of other stuff because you're going to probably need it. And putting on moleskin in the middle of a snow hike is not always the most efficient, comfortable situation. So I'd rather see you in a hiking boot, or if you've got an insulated boot that's kind of designed to be walked long distances in, then that would be a good call too. And then also, I don't know if when Dave and I were emailing each other, when I said, well, what do you want me to talk about snowshoes? A lot of people come in and ask for snowshoes, and we have to say, are you looking for something to keep your feet warm, or are you looking to actually walk in the snow? So I actually brought some snowshoes too, real quick. And the general thing about snowshoes is, you're going to be able to attach your foot into them. You're going to have a cool little crampon there that's going to allow you to bite into the snow, or ice. And the key with crampons are, with snowshoes are, you're trying to float on top of snow. And if any of you guys have ever gone out and post-holed into the snow a few hundred yards, it can be a pretty slow, pretty painful experience there where you're saying, okay, I just have to go far enough away so that I can go to the bathroom behind a tree and not everybody has to see me. And here I am trying to walk over there, and it takes me about an hour and a half, and I come back soaking wet. Which is not a good thing when you went out to go to the bathroom and you come back soaking wet. People think it's something else. But snowshoes, now I don't know that you'll need them on your hike, because unless we get a new dusting of snow between now and your trip, which I'm sure we probably will, unless we get a new dusting of snow just a few days before your trip, chances are the snow is going to be pretty packed down. And the same person who might be able to walk right across the snow, if the snow is softened up, is going to start to go down to your waist and post hole in. And snowshoes provide a lot more surface area, and so they'll allow you to much quicker get through to the next spot. Now the challenge when you're buying a snowshoe or when you're renting a snowshoe or doing whatever with a snowshoe is getting the right one. If you don't remember anything about snowshoes, then you guys can come here to learn about snowshoes, but if you don't remember anything about snowshoes, get the smallest one that'll work for you. You always want the shortest snowshoe. Now, the same person could need a different size snowshoe during the time. If you're going in the conditions change, you're going up 1,000 feet in elevation and you get up to 6,500 feet and you started at 5,500 feet, the snow at 6,500 feet is not the same as the snow at 5,500 feet, especially if you're getting away from somebody and you're now the first person breaking tracks. All of a sudden, instead of floating on top with your 22-inch snowshoe, you're now sinking down. You probably wish you had a longer snowshoe. MSR is at the moment the only guys who make modular snowshoes, and so that's part of their claim to fame, and we've got a ton of models of that, which this snowshoe will be a 22-inch snowshoe, and pretty darn quick it'll turn into a 28-inch snowshoe, which will completely change the flotation. So that's a cool setup, and this is a newer model of what we rent. We rent only MSR snowshoes, but if you think you're going to be going on a hike or whatever, then having snowshoes really helps. And almost the best thing to put in this snowshoe would be, once again, a hiking boot or something. It's something you're going to walk in. You don't want to get some big old boot that you're going to stand around, just to stay warm at a football game or whatever. That might be a great choice for that. It wouldn't be necessarily a great choice to walk in. So anything that you're going to be walking long distances in, you would put that type of footwear in there. But that now gives me a 20, in this case 28. The ones we rent at the store actually have two different options. There are 22, and then you can add a 4 or an 8-inch tail, so you can go up to 26 or 30, which kind of helps.
Scott, before we move off snowshoes,
yeah.
There was a question and I didn't answer, and I apologize earlier about doing snowshoes. And we run a snowcat on the road into Chawanakee, so it's about a little over 2 mile hike in. We run a snowcat on there to pack that down even further, okay? So for most of the in and out, you're going to be on a packed surface and you're not going to need a snowshoe. I bring my snowshoes. I didn't bring them to every Klondike. I bring them, and I'm not going again without them because, well, I'm getting old and I have bad back, and then I'm sinking down in the snow, and it works a lot when you're off the main road. So for me, I like to have them up there, but it's not a requirement that all of your scouts have to be outfitted with snowshoes to have a successful Klondike. Some of these guys won't sink in the snow if they tried, so they're
you got really big feet.
They got big feet. But you just got to make that call. And Scott's right. If we get a lot more snow between now and then, you may want to think about having some, particularly when you're off trail. It makes a more comfortable experience. But that road you're going in now, we will have the snowcat on it, so your scouts can walk on the snow.
Question.
I just want to make one comment. If you're not going to bring any snowshoes to your boys, at least have one pair for the troops, because last year and 2 years ago they had enough fresh powder that you couldn't set your tent up unless you packed down your area. So
really good point.
So at least have one pair with the troops, so you can get down there and you can pack that area down and so forth.
Very good point.
Yeah, we do rent snowshoes too, so that might be a good call for it. And the nice thing about the snowshoes is the bindings are fairly adjustable, so virtually everybody's foot can be adjusted in the range of adjustment for the bindings on the snowshoes.
A question on your snowshoes.
Yes.
Does the length of the snowshoe depend on the size of the person?
Yeah. Well, once again, I really glossed over. If you're standing in front of my snowshoe wall with your mouth open and sort of a confused look on your face, and certainly I'll come up and mention to you that you want the smallest snowshoe going, but that's determined by two things. The proper length snowshoe is determined by body weight, which also includes any sort of pack. If you say, hey, I'm using this for some big expedition I'm going on where I'm going out with a 50-pound pack,